So again, Prof. Kinnes has got a deep local knowledge. He wrote the seminal work From Urban Street Gangs to Criminal Empires, which traces how local street gangs evolved into sophisticated syndicates. He's previously served as the content advisor for the Portfolio Committee on Police in Parliament. He's worked with the Independent Complaints Directorate. He specializes in nodal governance, arguing that gangs often provide a form of order or governance in areas where the state is absent or if ineffective. Welcome, Prof. It's really great to have you.
Morning, Clarence, and morning to your listeners. It's great to hear you after such a long time. It's been years
Indeed.
that I've spoken with you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think we need to understand that contestation for governance between gangs and police. Help us.
Yes, that has always been there. My own research have shown that it is gangs that determine how the police constitute and develop their operations against the gangs. And so I started off studying, asking why are operations against gangs always failing? And I initially thought that it was the police that was the problem. But here, what I found on the street was that the gangs are so organized that they recruit police officers, where previously where crime intelligence used to recruit informers inside the gang. What you're seeing today, and well, for a few years now, quite a few years, gang members, the organized ones, are recruiting members in the police to give them information, so that when there are raids, that they know beforehand. They have their own intelligence networks, they have their own communications networks, and so forth. So it's not a problem for them they understand the role of the police. They understand that the police must play their role, and I've had some fantastic interviews with some of the big gang leaders. They spoke with me. Some of them forgot where they were and said things, and so I documented that.
Yeah. Okay, let's say that contestation for governance was not there, that the police were doing what they were supposed to be or are supposed to be doing. And this contestation did not exist. You are also on record as saying that the police in itself can't solve the problem of gangsterism.
I still am of the same opinion, because the genesis of gangs, and that's been documented by other scholars, has its roots in the socioeconomic conditions and situation that people find themselves in on the Cape Flats: poverty, unemployment, homelessness, and so forth and so on. That provides an opportunity for people to look at developing ways of survival in the illegitimate economy. And if you look at the job situation with young people, where do they go to? What do they do? If selling mandrax or selling tik provides a way out for some of these youngsters, that's what they do. And so we have to look at creating jobs, and we have to create opportunities for people. I always say that on the Cape Flats, anything is possible, but opportunities is everywhere. And so you have to be able to bring different partners, government and non-governmental, state and non-state partners together to view the problem differently. The problem isn't the gang members. We have to distinguish between the gang members, the individual gang members, and gangsterism, which is a cultural thing that has subjected people in the areas where they live to their terror, really. If you look at the way people are shooting, there is absolute lawlessness in some parts of the city, absolute lawlessness, where you see people are brazen. They shoot in front of the police sometimes, and they shoot where there is built-up areas, and groups of young people, men in particular, are doing this. And so the fact that they actually can do it shows that in those areas they govern.
The gangs providing jobs then for young unemployed males and females. Who should be providing those jobs? Because people are pointing to the ruling party nationally and the ruling party locally. That's I guess the ANC and the DA respectively, pointing fingers there that they have not done enough. Is that a fair accusation?
Look, I don't think anywhere in the world governments create jobs. I think it's the private sector together with government. And government's role is to create the enabling environment in which the economy can grow. So they have to get rid of the bureaucracy, the red tape, so that where young people want to start job opportunities, that they are allowed to do that, particularly in the small, micro, and medium enterprises sector. So as far as possible, government must stimulate the opportunities for young people by making grants available. And yes, governments do, but there are opportunities in the state as well that they should be drawing young people into, and they have internships and so forth. But it's not for everyone. It's for people that have completed the matric or the first degree and so forth. And so the youngsters that are involved in the gang have left school long ago. And it's to them that we have to create opportunities, because there is research by people like Darius Divansky who's argued that there are ways out of the gang. And one of those ways is when they find jobs, they leave the gang because they have a stable income. And so I think that we have to invest quite a lot of time and energy and effort into working with young people. And that is, I think, what has fallen down. There are many non-governmental organizations working with young people, but it's a pittance in terms of what they can provide. There has to be a gargantuan effort on the part of government and business and the community structures. Sorry.
Okay, let's.
I
want to touch on South African National Defence Force deployment. We've seen that in 2019. We've seen that with COVID. Is that just a plaster? But also communities are saying, we are really held captive in our homes by these gangs. Can we just get a bit of laughiness, if you know what I mean? The exasperation is palpable out there. Is this in itself not going to enable a little bit of that?
One mustn't just brush off the feelings of local people that are experiencing the gang violence. They will welcome the deployment of the SANDF, but I think in the longer term, it's not going to make a significant difference. I think the presence of the Defence Force will provide hope, but it's a false hope that there's some control in the streets, because eventually the Defence Force leaves, like they've done in 2019. And we're now reaping the whirlwind, where we see one gang called the Fancy Boys taking on all the other big gangs in Cape Town. I've never seen something like this. So we are in a very, very violent situation at the moment. And what the SANDF will do is it's critical, because you can't just deploy the Defence Force, because they have a very different operational philosophy when it comes to combating and fighting with the enemy. So their enemy is now going to be gangs. Although we hear from the president that they're only going to support police operations. And so that's not the way the Defence Force works. The Defence Force must send their own intelligence into these areas that they're going to be deployed. They have to make sure that they're in control of the perimeters and the area. And so there's going to be some contestation and competition between SAPS and the Defence Force. And it's a general admission that SAPS is not able to do the job. So you hear even police commissioners are saying now that deployment is a vote of no confidence in SAPS. The public don't trust the SAPS. And efforts has to be made to rebuild the public trust in SAPS. And that can only be done if you take away, in my view, the senior leadership echelons that are near retirement, whose feet are in the 20th century, whose head is in the 20th century. We need younger people in the police echelons that can take us firmly into the 21st century, because crime is changing very fast. And if you look at Madlanga Commission, then certainly this is what we must do. Sorry, Clarence.
Did I hear you correctly? Are you seeing mergers and acquisitions happening in the underworld or hostile takeovers? Did I hear you correctly? And why would that happen?
Yes, I think that is in fact happening. It's been happening for a while, actually. What's happening with the bigger gangs? Now I talk about the hard livings, the mongrels, the Americans, the schoolboys, the josters, and so forth. The fancy boys, for some reason, has been able to stamp the authority on these smaller gangs, on some of these bigger gangs, by turning their members and some of their leaders joining the fancy boys. Not all of them, but in significant communities where there's a strong gang presence. And so often what this has engendered is a tit-for-tat fight between the fancy boys and whatever gang exists, where the leaders have made changes and joined the fancy boys. And Clarence, what people don't know is that a gang war costs money to organize. For a gang leader to become involved in a gang war, you need firearms, you need vehicles, that you have to get people to steal those vehicles so that you can do drive-by shootings. You have to hire assassins, young boys who you put at the back of a vehicle that can do drive-by shootings. You have to feed the people who commit these particular crimes, who are involved in the war, because they have to congregate. You have to ensure that there's protection. So lots of resources are invested in gang wars. And so how do you replenish those resources? You commit crime. You steal firearms. You attack people. You steal the vehicles. You do hijacks. That is how crime spreads. And so what you're seeing on the Cape Flats at the moment is an explosion of the fact that the fancy boys
is it a consolidation that they seek?
Yeah.
A consolidation.
Absolutely.
Okay, so there's too many competitive forces maybe.
Absolutely.
They want to own a bigger part of the pie. I want to put it to you, and I know it's going to land heavy on an academic's head, but I've been to very poor areas on the continent and around the world, and unemployment didn't necessarily come with gangsterism. And I want to propose that maybe it's more than just a job, that there's an emptiness, there's a problem with soul here that we need to sort out as well.
Well, you're right. I'm not going to disagree with that at all. I don't think we must criminalize the poor. I think that poor people generally, and an overwhelming majority of poor people, are not violent. These are a few people, if you look at the general population in Cape Town, that is committing such devastation and havoc and holding people hostage in different communities. Let me give you an example. Take children going to a school in, let's just say, Lavendale. At the school, at that particular school, you will have on average about 20 to 30 youngsters who come to school every day, and they cause havoc in the school. When you speak to the teachers, they disrupt classes, they come late, and so forth. And that creates a governance problem for the school. It's the same in the community. There are youngsters and older gang leaders who does the same thing within the community, except they commit crime, they peddle drugs, they shoot people, and they stab people and kill people. And so not everybody in the community on the Cape Flats are gangsters. And I think that's been a problem of some scholars, indicating that the entire community are gangsters. You find that particular thinking has permeated right up to Pretoria. And so you cannot have a one-size-fits-all.
So you need police intelligence, and you need the detectives to put together a case, and you need them incarcerated.
Absolutely. They must be investigated professionally. Sorry.
We're going to have to wrap it there, unfortunately. You know, I can go on talking to you all day, but it's 2 minutes to 10 o'clock. Prof. Irvin Kinnes, criminologist at UCT.